I'm Alex Fisher up in God's country. That's what many of the residents up here call the Kern River Valley, a typically quiet area with small communities family and friends have called home for generations. It's a lifestyle many on the valley floor are unfamiliar with. Homes surrounded by nature, a peaceful environment. But on June 23, 2016, that peace was shattered as Mother Nature flexed her muscle with a powerful storm, the Erskine fire. There was no warning.
I know if it gets our house, we're losing everything. Plus our cat's gonna be dead.
Had you have been in the shower, you would have never known. I mean, because it was that fast.
A powerful storm.
It was a tornado. That's how it felt. It felt as a fire tornado.
It was sheer terror for residents and firefighters who quickly learned the Erskine fire was a monster storm.
It happened so fast. It was so furious.
The first call of a small brush fire at the base of Cook's Peak came at 3:51 that Thursday afternoon a year ago.
We have about 2 acres crossing the road from the archery range, multiple spots, and it's starting to run up the hill.
The fire exploded.
Probably 200 acres and running with the wind.
The Erskine fire was driven by a combination of factors. Dry brush and dead trees left behind from California's historic 5-year drought provided fuel for the fire. Scorching temperatures and gusty winds up to 50 miles per hour exacerbated conditions as it was pushed up the slope towards Cook's Peak, then down the other side into Squirrel Valley, then rushing over the next hill into South Lake.
Mother Nature created a perfect storm that afternoon. All of the factors were in play for the most devastating wildfire in Kern County's history.
40 minutes after the first call came out, the sky turned dark as thick black smoke billowed into the air. The fire was in Squirrel Valley.
Units going into Squirrel Valley. We do possibly have a structure already on fire with multiple threatened.
The call for help went out across California.
The fire threatens about 400 to 500 structures.
Crews and agencies from around the region raced to the scene as the blaze intensified. At one point, 2,000 firefighters battled the blaze from the ground and sky. It wasn't enough. The magnitude of this inferno had experienced fire officials in disbelief.
There's not one fire department in the state that has the resources as a standalone fire department to fight the Erskine fire.
Even state-of-the-art technology could not measure the ferocity.
This fire defied the computer models. The computer models could not duplicate what we saw in our own backyard.
An hour after the first spark, hundreds of homes were threatened.
Okay, we're going to be 600 to 800 structures threatened. Fires moved out of my visual, but looks like a pretty rapid rate of spread.
We were witnessing record spread of fire, historic spread of fire.
Homes exploded.
15 plus structures burning.
Oh, you could hear all the propane tanks going on, everything. All the guns, the ammo, it was just complete chaotic, like a bomb went off.
Evacuations were ordered. Many barely had time to get out the front door.
As soon as I got to my house, there was a sheriff sitting there said, "Get out."
My mind keeps running about all the things I should have grabbed, could have grabbed, left behind, and I just hope it's there.
Some could not escape in time.
Possible victim trapped in a burning house.
Byron and Gladys McCaig were overcome by smoke and flames. They died in the front yard of their home. Fire crews hoped conditions would improve as the sun set to get the upper hand on the fire. But the storm did not rest.
Structure threats can be bumped up to 1,000.
We have that same fire in the same area probably every 3 to 5 years. And we're usually able to contain that fire early in the evening into the night. That was not happening when this fire broke.
About 8:30, 9 o'clock, when the sun finally set, I looked across the lake and I saw that whole side of the world on fire. And that's when it hit me. I said, we have a major disaster that is going to be with us for quite some time.
By early morning the following day, Friday, June 24th, the fire continued to move, scorching 11 miles of land in 13 hours. Officials and residents tried to comprehend the widespread destruction.
The conditions that are predicted for today are more of the same, which means this fire will continue to move actively.
The immediate threat was still strong in several communities.
We estimate that 1,500 homes are threatened by the fire. We've lost approximately 80, but as we assess the area, that number could jump significantly.
It did. 285 structures reduced to ash over the 48,000 acres that burned. The first glimpses of horror came as daylight broke.
I'm lucky. I got my dog, you know. I lost everything I own, literally everything I own.
You know, the insurance can cover the furniture, but it can't cover the letters you got from your kids. It can't cover the trophies that you stored away for them.
Many residents were still in the dark.
I want to go home, and I don't have a home to go home to.
Debbie Madore was one of the few escorted back to her property after the fire, passing through areas of destruction.
We lost our daughter 4 years ago, and I went to the exact spot where her ashes would be in the house, and I found something there, and it was a different color than everything else, and so I collected those. And my mama's china, there was a few pieces left that were broken.
Neighborhoods with homes where generations grew up in, gone. The only thing left, memories smoldering in the piles of rubble.
This fire is going to be in our memories for a long time.
Police trying to keep us out, but I'm sorry, you know, and so we just ignored them.
Southlake, Squirrel Valley, and Mountain Mesa were some of the communities hit hardest by the Erskine fire. Residents had only minutes to evacuate as the decimation of property began.
The ashes are blowing in my face, and I'm thinking I'm going to be on fire here in a minute.
Over 100 people displaced by the Erskine fire crowded an emergency shelter at Kernville Elementary School. The days were long and hot. The only thing to do was wait.
We're just basically hanging out.
The fire knocked out power and burned cell towers. Communicating with others was nearly impossible. Handwritten messages were an alternative. One couple was able to reunite at the shelter,
I'm so glad to find you.
bringing hope to a horrific situation.
I lost everything, and I found the only person I had left, and I asked her to marry me.
I love you. I love you.
It was no secret neighborhoods vanished. The Erskine fire moved in and out fast, consuming everything in its path. The destruction was done. Residents were desperate to see if their homes were still standing. But when they went to check, they were stopped by police.
It's just very, very frustrating.
Greg Smith wasn't home during the fire, but he received a phone call about flames at his doorstep.
My neighbor called me. He said, "Your shed is burning. Your truck just blew up," and then his phone line went dead.
4 days after the fire ripped through the area, the emotional toll was wearing.
The unknown is killing me.
Although the immediate threat of fire moved away, public safety was still a concern.
We can't let you go back until it's safe.
Power lines were down, hot ash scattered throughout the area, and burned trees had the potential of toppling. There were environmental health concerns as well. In the mix of the rubble, chemicals, propane tanks, asbestos, and lead contamination.
We want to make sure that you survive the fire, that you don't have any additional health impacts because of what could be in that, potentially be in that ash.
Many spent days imagining what they would return to, but reality hit as they came back, only to find everything gone.
I came from a poor family, I didn't have much growing up. My whole life I had to work hard for everything that I had. So yeah, it's hard.
Christy Bryant, her husband and children came back to see a few of their belongings in the mix of destruction, walking around trying to see if anything could be salvaged.
Yeah, we've had Thanksgivings and Christmases and birthdays, and it's a lot of memories, yeah. Heartbreaking, like losing a part of your family or something, I tried to hold it together for these guys.
For those whose homes were spared by the fire, moving back was bittersweet. One resident was on vacation during the fire. He returned to see his home untouched. A different story for his neighbors.
Coming back home, we were always worried about what we were going to see.
The call for help went out, and the people of Kern County responded. Clothes, food, water, and other necessities were donated and sent up the mountain to victims, truckload after truckload.
I'm overwhelmingly encouraged by the generosity of the people here.
Although the need was great, the generosity was greater. So many donations flooded in, there was not enough room to sort, store, and distribute items efficiently.
While you appreciate that generosity, it then becomes a challenge to manage this process. And that was something that we had not experienced to such a great extent in Kern County.
After many dark days, the chaos calmed. Though the fire was still active, containment was increasing. Fire trucks were not the only vehicles on the road.
It's nice getting out and seeing people moving again.
Although residents came back to fresh scars, businesses reopened. Spirits were high.
It's great.
Yeah.
Life is returning back to normal.
Less than 2 weeks after the fire started, on the 4th of July, American flags were placed on each property, adding some color and pride to a gloomy scene. But trouble hit again. Homeowners who lost everything were faced with how to rebuild. Many were uninsured or underinsured and left the area for a chance to get back on their feet somewhere else. Those who wanted to stay got little help. The Federal Emergency Management Agency, or FEMA, sent out a letter to victims. It said, "It has been determined that the damage from this event was not of such severity and magnitude to be beyond capabilities of the state, affected local governments, and voluntary agencies." But the federal agency had about 70 mobile homes in Sacramento ready to deploy. County supervisors approved an agreement with the governor's office of emergency services to provide temporary housing. But some local residents found the deadline way too short.
It seems to me ridiculous, though it took them months to get these agreements in place, and then they only gave people 3 weeks to apply. So it seems to me reasonable to ask for a little more time.
Some applied for a home but were rejected. Now frustrated, they don't know if they'll ever return to these mountains again.
The qualifications they had didn't seem to make any sense to me. I thought it should have been very simple questions. Did you lose your home? Yes or no? Were you insured? Yes or no? And were you overinsured? Did you have enough money to rebuild? Yes or no?
Susan Ramey lived in South Lake. She had a positive attitude after learning her home was destroyed by the fire. It was insured.
I'm definitely going to rebuild. I love that spot. Within a year, it's going to be beautiful again.
She now lives in a home in Wofford Heights. Her property in South Lake is still empty.
I don't want to give up my property. South Lake is very special.
Tammy, I'm at the border of Mountain Mesa and Squirrel Valley. If you take a look behind me, you can see that the road is still closed.
Jim, a Kern County Fire Battalion chief told me that there are multiple structures on fire right now that are burning off of Kelso Valley Road. And this all just started within the last few hours as the wildfire moved east.
This is the real thing. We're having to evacuate because the fire is on its way. It's down the hill, and as it starts coming up, we'll be in real trouble.
It's been a year since the Erskine fire. The small communities are even smaller. But if you look closely, you'll see new life emerging.
Well, now there's a new beauty. It's called the Black Forest, and I embrace it with everything.
A year ago after the fire, South Lake turned into a ghost town. Street cleaners came in to erase the evidence of destruction. Hazmat crews evaluated the scene to ensure safety. Though still quiet, some call South Lake home once again. A year ago, Kathy Berlin returned to the place she once called home.
It's just so devastating to look and see that it's gone. You know, it's like you feel like you should just be able to come home.
A resident of South Lake for 15 years, left with nothing but the rubble she stands on.
It had 3 bedrooms, or 2 bedrooms and a den, so it was good for 3 people and 4 dogs and a cat and 2 birds that didn't make it and a fish or a turtle that didn't make it.
As she sifted through the past, she looked to the future, a journey that seemed rough. She did not have home insurance, but South Lake was her home. She wasn't going to abandon it.
So now I rebuild. At 66, well, see how good I am.
A year later, the soot was wiped away. The neighborhood that once seemed dead, now slowly coming alive.
Welcome to my humble abode. Please excuse the blankets on the floor. That's for my dogs.
Berlin is back on her property. She received her keys in May.
This is my living room, kitchen, dining room combination.
She's one of the few dozen who qualified for a home brought in from the California Office of Emergency Services. After we left her a year ago, her life was on pause for 11 months as she figured how to move back to her property.
It was hard to get into life, you know, being somewhere else and knowing this property was still here.
Every day since has been a significant challenge.
You just take a day at a time, kind of like, you know, an alcoholic. You just have to get through the next day.
Berlin kept her promise from a year ago. She is rebuilding.
It's kind of fun to rebuild, but yet again, it's like, gosh, I wish I could just come home to the old place and have all my memories and all my treasures. But you stand here and you wonder, okay, let's see, where was the living room, and you know, where was this and that, so you can kind of get an idea. But it's just been surreal.
Although she's moving on, reminders of that horrible June afternoon surround her.
I'm putting up a wooden fence against the chain link so I can kind of block out the memories of my neighbor next door that is living somewhere else, and it's sad.
She returned to the same property with a different house.
I thank the Lord every morning I wake up. I really do. I thank Him for being back on my property and having this nice little house.
But she's working hard to make it comfortable and lively in the place she's called home for so long.
It's just that this is home. I've looked at these mountains for 15 years now, and yeah, I had to come back.
It took nearly 6 months for fire officials to find the cause of the Erskine fire. A faulty electrical line in a tree caused a spark that led to the largest fire in Kern County's history, the 15th largest in California's. It took nearly 2.5 weeks for firefighters to reach 100% containment, 48,000 acres scorched, 285 homes destroyed, 2 lives lost, and the recovery efforts are just beginning.
The Erskine fire, we're not done with. We're still in a disaster proclamation. We're just now moving people back into their homes. So there's still a lot of work.
This year's fire season is a concern. The effects of California's historic drought, mixed with new growth from the wet winter, provide even more fuel than before. And there's no evidence that the threat will go away.
The potential for an Erskine fire in the Kern River Valley the Tehachapies, the Grapevine area is there today.
Everyone lives in a disaster-prone area, whether it be a fire in the mountains or valley floor, flood or earthquake, time is of the essence. Kern County has an emergency alert program that allows law enforcement to send out necessary information in times of crisis. A Ready Kern alert works by notifying you on your landline, email, and other platforms. If you do not reply signifying you've received the notification, the alert system will continue to contact you on all registered devices until there is a response. If your home or business has a listed phone number, that number is already registered. Otherwise, you'll have to register yourself. If you would like to sign up for a Ready Kern alert, you can visit our website, kerngoldenempire.com. There you'll find information on how to activate those alerts. From all of us at 17 News, I'm Alex Fisher.